Yeah, everyone, we're live outside the BBC studios in Manchester. As for the Fuck the BBC and Transphobes that work for them protest, it's to do with I'm not 100% sure on the topic, but I think it's to do with an article that was written that people disagree with and believe is transphobic. I'm sure someone will give a speech and tell you more information. That's all I know so far. Please smash like and share. Share it to any groups that you know of that might be interested to it too, as well as your timeline. Thank you, Margaret.
toilets open. Please be careful with profanities because of kidneys now. Thank you.
The FWP have a rating!
People have been talking about it for 10 fucking years and we still haven't learned. Get the fuck off! Yeah, exactly. Fuck the activists. Fuck the activists.
Right, think of the fucking optics. I know I hate optics, but think of the optics of a rape horse coming up and posting an article about rape.
We're not in a position to go through that now. A lot of us are very clearly against advocacy. We're not interested in looking. All I've heard is fucking excuses and fucking years. Bollocks. Bollocks. It's such bollocks. It's such bollocks. You turn up and hijack everything and you fucking run your fucking rape cult. Your fucking rape cult. Don't fucking want you. Trans people who have been organising in the community don't fucking want fucking SWP.
You got me there, you got me.
Sorry. It's okay.
Someone asked me for like a
basically the nonsense that's been put on the BBC website. Monstering trans people as potential paedophiles, abusers, rapists, I think was the word that was used. And there's a thank you for everyone for turning up. I mean, I've just turned up. Who's the organisers? No one's the organisers. No, there you go. There's an excellent example. No one's the organisers. Because this idea that there's a trans cabal and that we're all paid, have you heard that one? That we're all paid by George Soros, apparently? It's one of the more crackpot things. Now, what we are is a bunch of individuals who are sick and tired of being pressured, bullied, one of the most marginalised and victimised communities on the planet. And we thought we were making progress up to a certain point, up to maybe 6 years ago. And then suddenly this backlash. And the backlash doesn't matter if it's in people's heads, because it's always been in people's heads. People have always gone yuck and stuff about any LGBT person. But when it starts to become legitimised on the press and on the internet, and it's given credence by academics, professionals, and MPs, then there comes a point where you have to say no more. This is the line in the sand.
Yes.
I transitioned a very long time ago, over 30 years. And for 30 years I've led a peaceful life as my true self, legally, socially, and haven't had problems in many of the ways that many people within the community have. And some people need protection more than others, and that's a fact. But even those of us who've had what I would call the easy life are now finding a prospect of having these rights actively taken away from us. It's not just rhetoric. We know that there's a pressure going on within the government and within the advisors that they want to see things changing in the Equality Act. They're not so bothered about the Gender Recognition Act because secretly they know that it doesn't really mean anything unless you want to get married or you want to die with dignity. No, this is the Equality Act we're talking about, which was a combination of a number of human rights acts that existed before and were consolidated in 2010 to protect everyone, everybody. And gender reassignment is one of these characteristics. And gender reassignment does mean gender identity, because gender reassignment can mean anybody at the stage or progress that they are at any particular time. And that means someone who's 1 day into transition is protected by the Equality Act. And they want to take those rights from us. And they will not do it! I'm not going to hold this forever, I just want to say that. And also the fact that in the last 4 or 5 days, 20,000 signatures have been made to the open letter that has been delivered to the Director General of this corporation, which I believe to be institutionally transphobic. But I'd also like to qualify that. The BBC is an absolutely massive organisation. It's on a scale most of us have no idea about. 20,000 employees over the entire country, multiple radio stations, television stations, outreach projects, education, children's, natural history, and all of these wonderful groups that employ thousands of people are being shamed by the Current Affairs Department, who, starting with Newsnight, carrying on to the website, and all through the general tone of the news, are condemning trans people on a regular basis. The Current Affairs Department are the people that we have to fight with. Do you know something? CBBC, we love you! We do! I do love the BBC. I'm a licensed payer. I know a lot of people don't like paying the license, and that's absolutely fine. But I'm a licensed payer because I believe in the entertainment and cultural content that this corporation puts out. But when they let themselves down from the top to the bottom of the Current Affairs Department, and then the Director General doubles down and supports them, one of the people that they... Can I say this? Yes, I think I can. One of the people that they had interviewed on that particular article, you can easily find it if you've not seen it, turns out that they are a sex offender themselves. I'm trying not to say too many details because there's kids here. They're a sex offender themselves and have actually acknowledged it and apologised for it. And yet this person was apparently judged to be a suitable person to give an opinion on the dangers that trans people are potentially about to commit. It's ridiculous! So thank you for coming, thank you for showing solidarity. There you go, that's it in a nutshell. That's it. So thank you for coming. We're going to sing some songs, or we're going to stand here and be obnoxious a bit. For those of you who don't know, my name's Annie Wallace. I play a character called Sally on Hollyoaks. I have been working for them for 6 years now. 6 years of successful, supported work. And for that, Line Pictures and Channel 4 have to be applauded. Don't get me wrong. Not everyone's perfect in the media industry. Everyone's still learning, to be honest. But the support that I have had from my company and my programme has been fantastic. I wish I could say the BBC is doing the same, but they're not. In fact, I'm losing my breath now. In fact, trans people are being more and more marginalised within the corporation and amongst the people that they employ as freelancers as well. So it's a constant struggle now. And this one article is, as I say, a line in the sand, and they will go no further. That's it, I'm dead.
I'm going to say a couple of words, but I hope others will come up after me. I'm not the organiser of this protest, but the person who did call it out doesn't wish to take a sort of front-running position on it, which is kind of unsurprising, actually. That everyone's so terrified. Our community has become increasingly scared, and things have become so toxic to even be associated with trans rights. We see the efforts by the British government to cut Stonewall out of the BBC, out of Ofcom, out of government departments. We see all sorts of other stuff going on. It's dangerous to be associated with us right now, which is it's a strange place to be for us as a community, to be this isolated. The thing is, we're not isolated. People are standing by us. People have been through this before. A lot of it's a replay of what's been going on, what went on in the 1980s. And people have seen it, and they're not stupid. They know that if you give in to this stuff, we're all going to lose, and they can't. So it's such a brilliant thing to see so many people here today, coming together just to say no to it.
Hi everyone, I'm Mike Kuska, I'm a Labour Councillor for Eccles and Lead Member for Planning and Sustainable Development in Salford City Council. I'd like to welcome you all to Salford. We're in Salford. Not Manchester. And I just wanted to come down today, solidarity to you all, and you're not alone. Lots of people within the party, within the council who support you. I just wanted to say that. Thanks.
I'll say something. Oh, brilliant, thank you.
Hi everyone. So I just wanted to stand here in solidarity with everyone, because being a trans woman and being a trans woman of colour, when I see stuff like this, it really makes me angry, and it really makes me want to stand up, because the more visible we are, the more we are prone to this type of horrendous behaviour, and it just won't stand. And we need to remember that together, collectively, and I'm not just talking about trans people, I'm talking about trans allies as well. Like, together, we are unstoppable. And I want everyone to know that when I look out, and when I look out at all of you, I see nothing but beauty. I see nothing but strength. I see nothing but courage. And that is what they are all afraid of. So they will keep pushing back, but we're going to push back even harder. So what I really, really want is, no matter how you want to express yourself, never apologize for it, because you are beautiful and you are valid, and you have the right to take up as much space as you want. So make sure that you express yourself however you want, whether you are a performer, whether you are a writer, whether you are a creative, or whether you just want to walk down the street and say, you know what, this is who I am, and if you don't like what I'm cooking, don't eat it.
I don't usually talk to these things, but I'm a bit shy. But I'm a trans woman, I'm bisexual. I don't often talk to these things because I'm a bit shy, but I'm a trans woman.
I'm really sorry, this is my first day.
Hi, I'm a trans woman, I'm bisexual, and I do go to lesbian sometimes, and I'm usually the only trans woman there. Which is strange because there's a lot of the trans women I know socially, both in real life and online. A lot of trans women are attracted to women, and yet they stay away from lesbian events.
I'm really sorry. Testing. Hi. I don't usually speak of these things because I'm a bit shy, but I'm a trans woman, I'm bisexual, and I often go to lesbian events. And I'm usually the only trans woman there. And yeah, most of the trans women I know, in real life and online, there's a lot of trans women who are attracted to women, and yet they stay away from lesbian events. And I think it's because of lies like this. When I've gone to events and I've often quite pathetically explained that I'm trans, I've received nothing but support and nothing but welcome from the lesbian community. And I think it's really sad that these lies get spread and that they encourage trans women to stay away because they fear they won't be accepted. And it's lies, it's not true. I just want to say that.
expressing themselves, that's not love, that's not validation, and that's what kids need. And that's what this community gives them.
Yes!
I talk to kids who say that they don't want to be trans because their parents won't accept them. I talk to parents who are scared for their kids for expressing themselves. Parents are scared because of this misinformation, this biased bigotry that the BBC perpetrates, and the Times, and so many other media outlets. And it's not fair, because it is lies, and we're paying for that. That's not fair, and it's not true. That is not what our community is about, and that's why we're here, to set the record straight. Not really.
Just the record.
Exactly. Exactly. Because we're here because we do love, and we validate, and we say to people, it's okay to be who you are. It is okay. Nothing's happened. I came out. Yeah. Nothing happened. The world didn't end. You're all still here.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you come out. It doesn't matter what anyone else says, because only you know who you are. And not the BBC, not anyone can tell us who we are.
Well, they don't ask us.
Exactly. They don't bring
don't
anyone.
talk to us.
Exactly. It's all bias. They say that they have two sides of the story. Where? Where is that story? They certainly haven't published it. It's all lies. If they talk to us and listen, we're here. We are very here and vocal. They could be listening right now, but they're not.
Just one thing. The only trans people that most press and media talk to are the trans people who oppose all the rest of us. And there's about 5 of them, and we know the names, and we're not going to say them here because we know them. But they only go to them because that's their form of affirmation. There's a small group of people who completely are outliers. They do not, well, I'm not going to use the word conform, it's the wrong word, because I don't believe in that either. They do not support or believe in the ethos and the foundation of peace, love, and support that almost every LGBT plus organisation in this country does. Stonewall, LGBT Foundation, and so many more. And we're sick of seeing these same 5 people trotted out. It's like, well, we're going to get a trans person in to speak about these allegations. And then the trans person says, yes, I'm as worried as you are. That's not representative of the 70% of people in this country who voted and filled in forms that says they support trans people.
And the reason why they don't do that, and they say, oh, well, we went to this organisation and they didn't want to talk to us. I wonder why. They don't post what we say. They change our words. They change it to suit them because they don't want us to be ourselves. There is power in being yourself. So do it.
Sorry, I'm just going to write, I've written a few notes on my phone, so I'm just going to read off some real quick. Obviously, a lot of the fear that people feel is that the institutional bias in the BBC is scary, it's traumatic, it's re-traumatizing. It can be really difficult to be able to engage the media in any real faith because of this constant fear that you're going to get taken out of context. And it is an example of confirmation bias because that's a fear in critical thinking when people only go out to seek what proves their viewpoint, which, like the last speaker said, relates to like the 5 trans people that go out and all agree with them, the LGBT Alliance and other organisations. It hasn't been mentioned yet, but yesterday the Tory government published the first consultation, and my initial thoughts on that, and I feel like it might be the same for a lot of people, is that it may end up going the way of the GRA consultation, where people respond to it positively, but like, oh, we don't agree with this, it doesn't meet our agenda, so we're going to ignore it. And I don't know the specifics about it, so I'm not going to go into detail, but I don't want to engage it because that's how I see it.
pass it is protests like this, like the people here today, is not any more effective but has to happen more continuously and consistently, and to ensure that people are forced to see that yes, there are people here, we will speak, we will be heard, we will fight, we will win, and change is inevitable as long as we fight for it.
I'm a media student at university right now, and there are several other people in my class who are trans. I remember growing up, the BBC was, I really looked up to them as excellent reporters who would do balanced journalism. But I think over the coming years we're going to see a huge number of trans graduates who are going elsewhere because the BBC is not prepared to support us. I used to want to work for the BBC, and now I would be ashamed to. Where are their trans reporters, their trans camera people? They've gone elsewhere.
Anyone else want to speak at all? Please just like come around, line up. Feel free if you've got something to say.
Hello! Better result than I was expecting. Hi, I'm Simone. I'm local to this area. I'm from Eccles originally. My pronouns are she, her. And I was so astounded by the turnout today. It's been really lovely. It's been really heartening. Sometimes we live in these sort of circumstances where we have to go so long without seeing another trans person or seeing another visible ally. And it can be so isolating and so scary. But like the person has said before, having everyone gathered here at this moment together, I feel a great solidarity with everyone. I feel supported. I feel like everyone else is around. And that I'm not alone. So, I'm going to count down to 3. And after 3, I want everyone to shout out where they've come from today. And I want to see just how many different places they've come from. We'll see how this works if I go poorly in my notes. 1, 2, 3! Hearing a lot of Salford, but a lot of other places as well. Thank you so much, everyone who's come far, some who've come short. You're all appreciated. Thank you so much.
Hello, hoping you can all hear me okay. My name's Lizzie, I'm a cis lesbian, and I just want to say the article that was published by the BBC is bullshit and it's not representative at all of my community. So I just want to say, Simone, everybody else who's trans, non-binary, and part of the LGBTQIA+ community here, you're welcome. I see you. I'm an ally hopefully by turning up to events like this. So after 3, I want you to all shout, "Fuck you, BBC." 1, 2, 3. Fuck you, BBC. Thank you. Hi, I'm not going to say my name. Pronouns are he, it, and they. And I want to say, when I was 14 and scared, it was not. When you read articles that say there's somebody online that's telling children to go get illegal hormones, to go transition in secret, not tell your parents. That wasn't it. There was a community there to tell me that the feelings I had inside me were valid. I was allowed to explore who I was, and that nobody was ever going to pressure me into being something I'm not. That I can take this journey at my own pace. That I'm allowed to be who I want to be, and that nobody can tell me anything different. I have a lot of power right now, so what a sort of chant on the count of 3, trans rights and human rights.
I also want to say, so very recently the BBC approached me to be in a documentary, and when I did, when I was doing it, and I was speaking to 3 celebrities, one that's on television at the moment, I was asked something very degrading, and I shut that shit down. With grace, of course. But I shut that down because it's like, no one has the right to ask me something like that. I don't give a damn whether you are prominent on TV, I will take you on. And I And even though that is going to air at the end of this month or anything like that, that still didn't stop me from standing here with all of you amazing people, because that's what we do. And I want to make sure that people know that don't silence yourself, don't avoid any opportunity where you can speak up. At the same time, when things like this happen, as Rihanna says, tell your friends to pull up.
Hello. Longer in the tooth than some here, but younger than some, which is a nice mix, really. What I'd like to go up and say is a couple of bits, really. This BBC attack was really an attack on trans women, much more than it was on trans men. And that's horrendous, and it's a thing that we consistently see. Trans men are forgotten in this debate. We are infantilized. We are told that we are brainwashed women who are self-hating and do not know who we are. We know who we are. We talked earlier, Annie was talking earlier about how this is the recycled climate favour of the 1980s. And I would also like to say, and the 1990s, and the 2000s, and the 2010s, and everything. Because I was out, before I was out as a trans man, and that took years and soul struggling, and I didn't start transitioning until I was in my mid-20s. But I was an out gay woman in a high school in the mid-noughties, and I can tell you now, I was threatened with expulsion. I was told to use different changing rooms, right? Because I was a threat to other students. I wasn't a threat to any fucking one. So that's it. There's this same rhetoric that I see now at our trans sisters. It's horrendous. I'm not going to ask anyone to chant anything. Just take this away. Yes, this is the truth of it. And congratulations to everyone who showed up today, and I hope this reaches more people.
I'm just going to say something really quickly. BBC prides itself, or it should pride itself on being impartial and neutral. When they give a voice consistently to the LGBT Alliance, who just last week at their annual conference said trans people don't exist, to a cheering crowd who are trying to erase us from the Equality Act 2010, who are constantly against our rights and trying to erase us from existence. That's not promoting neutrality or impartiality, that is promoting fascism.
Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you everyone for coming here today. It's a bit nippy, isn't it? Just a bit chilly, trying to hold my gloves. Anyhow, I'm non-binary. I'm a fabulous they, them. And one thing that really knocked me off a little bit about not just this, but the last couple of years, because you might notice there's a pandemic going on. You know, it's kind of impacted our lives a little bit here and there. And one thing I feel that I've noticed a lot is that there's a lot of debate about, say, masks and vaccines. However, it's a personal choice if you should have vaccines or wear a mask. And there's a lot of debate about that. Because we're individuals, we should have individual rights to do as we want within, certain parameters. But when it comes to trans people, there is no debate about that.
Yes.
It's just that it's dangerous that our allies and charities are brainwashing people. Now we have no choice because people don't see us as cognizant, that we can think to ourselves, that we don't think about gender, and other people need to make those choices for us. Because when it comes to trans issues, the parameters as an individual, as what you
by people who hate us and they don't like us and they want us to stop existing. And that's why you have all of these gatekeeping nonsense as part of the NHS that makes it harder for you to get what you know you need to lead a happy, healthy life. And I just went through that. I just went, how many years? 3 to 4 years on the NHS to get hormones. And I'll tell you what the funny thing was about this one night. I get into the meeting on Zoom and they said, oh yeah, sorry about that. It looks like we had some appointments and cancelled them. So it's always took a bit long. Like, they didn't tell me about these cancelled appointments. So I don't know why it took so long. But that gatekeeping is there, and it's not there to protect us. It's to protect other people that aren't trans, who want to feel self-assured that other people that aren't them are making the wrong decisions, whatever that is. It's not there to protect us. It's there for the peace of mind of other people who don't like us and don't care about us. Yeah. I haven't got any call to action, no chanting, nothing like that. Because when you get home, get yourself a nice cup of tea, put your feet up, and warm up from all this horrible weather.
Century, that I would never have to fight for my rights, that life was going to be easy for me as a trans person, and that was a lie. I genuinely, I thought I was quite lucky. I thought, you know what, I'm in this country, I'm fine, you know, nothing terrible is going to happen, my rights aren't going to be stripped from me, and yet here we stand, and it's, well, hope. But yeah, I just want to say that it sucks. I don't really have a speech. I'm not a speech person, but yeah, hello.
Hello, it's me again, Loudmouth. I'm sorry. There's a word that I've heard from some of the speakers already, the debate. This often gets banned. The debate. Let's have the debate. We're being silenced from the debate. Do you know when the debate happened? Between 1999 and 2004, the Gender Recognition Act was being framed in the House of Lords and the House of Commons. Yeah. And then prior to that, again in the House of Commons and the House of Lords, prior to the Equality Act of 2010, the debates have been had, the consultations have been had. Trans rights exist in law and in social practice now. Never let them take them away. Always be aware of your legal rights. Do not allow them to even think of chipping at them. That's our threat at the moment. But you already have the rights. We fought for it. I'm old enough to be one of the people who helped fight for it. And they will not ever take them away from us again.
I just wanted to say, thank goodness for the loudmouths, because like, where would we be without you? On the subject of the debate, I just wanted to have a quick word, and also of the LGB Alliance. The LGB Alliance and Get the L Out, who are both of the gender critical sources who are used by the BBC for that article yesterday, they get used regularly as BBC sources. Both of those groups are signatories to a document called the Women's Sex-Based Rights Declaration. Now, that document has been looked over by an expert in international human rights law, and it was made absolutely clear that anyone reading that, even if you're not an expert particularly, should understand that that is a document calling for the full repeal of all human rights for trans people, all human rights protections. It means a repeal of the GRA, it means a repeal of the Equality Act. And another thing it means is because the GRA and the Equality Act are both backed by other human rights legislation, it would also mean withdrawing Britain from its commitments under international human rights law, even to be allowed to get away with it. So there's some real long-term questions to be raised about why these hate groups that are so cozy with the government are being regularly supported and used as if there's some... It's ironic, they talk about the government's coziness with Stonewall, and meanwhile these hate groups that have been sprouted up by the essentially by conservative-friendly groups who, the LGBT Alliance gave £6,000 to the Conservative Party in order to have a stall at their conference.
Shame!
What a joke, what an absolute joke to pretend that that's an independent organisation. Anyway, so who's next?
Right, okay. Hello, I'm Kit. I think what you just said was actually where they should have gone. I'm following you, but I'll just bring it to something a little bit personal for me. I'm 47 years old and I started testosterone in June. Back in the early 90s, but it wasn't something that we understood the world in those terms.
He should be, yeah, we'll kind of support them, but they can just be over there. We'll let the straights in. That was their argument. We'll let the straights in.
In helping me figure out who I was. Representation severely matters. It is desperately needed. I am a much healthier mentally person than I was back then because I have figured out what's been wrong all these years. I know that's not a rare story, but people grow up along for like years and years and they don't realize what this thing is, this ghost that's been haunting their lives, smashing their mental health for years, and then everything clicks. We need to help people who are struggling and don't realize, get that click. It's so important. I can do a lot more now than I used to be able to. I used to do nothing, and now I Photoshop pictures of beans. It's something. Thank you very much.
So there's been a few speakers here who talked about the GRA and Section 28 and things like that. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who has fought to get our rights, who has fought in the 90s, 80s, 2000s, everything. We are in a much better place because of you guys, and we will not let them take it away from us. We will not. And I just want to say that I am coming from a very privileged position that I was able to transition, that I was able to come out, and I had to fight every single step of the way, but you all made it so much better. And representation matters. It does. So be out, be proud, because there is someone scared and thinking that they are alone in what they are feeling, but they are not alone. We are here, we are visible, and you do not know the fire that you have by coming out. Whenever I came out, I was the only person in my school who knows about trans. I went to a very Catholic grammar school. I had to fight for 6 months to be able to wear trousers to school. And then, once I came out, there was kids who were a few years younger than me who said, oh, I can do that. You're able to be comfortable. And they set up more protests and more things to get their rights to be able to be comfortable in school. I did not think of the impact of me coming out, and it has a knock-on effect. It's a very, very small effect, but it causes a wave. When you come out, you become part of a community that is there for you, and we will not let them make us regress and make us go back into that place of being scared and alone, because we are not alone. You are not alone in feeling how you're feeling. Yes!
Hey everyone. Hey. Oh, good, you can all hear me. I don't want to be a downer, but I didn't want to bring this to the point that we have fought for rights, but they're not complete. They call us mentally ill. If you can't prove it to the way that they want you to, they call you a liar. The recognition for non-binary people does not exist, and we all know it. And when articles like this come out and say that we're dangerous and that people are predators and that they're liars, all it does is it further propagates that violence against us that we all know is still constantly happening. Whether it's somebody you know saying something about
something they saw on TV. Oh, it happens. Maybe something they saw on the BBC, and you have to swallow that. Or it's not feeling safe when you walk down the street. These things continuously. Even when all they do is they push this rhetoric, they inform the opinions of people around us, who then say nothing when our rights are debated. The cis people that claim to love us or support us, or maybe really do. But it needs to be everybody. We have to show up for this stuff, and we all do it. And I'm sure there are people who have spent a long time showing up to these things where they weren't out, and they couldn't be who they wanted to be. And there are people out there that we probably don't even know they're dealing with the same things. They're in our spheres, and we don't know that they're trans. And so yeah, we have to be vocal against not just the debate over our rights, but over these articles that incite violence against us. That was it, thank you.
Hey friends! My name is Pip. I am genderqueer, going by they, them pronouns. Thank you. I have only recently, in the past couple of years, been identifying as non-binary. And for much of my adolescent and adult life, I never knew that this was an option. This was never given to me. In high school, the word gay was used as a stick to beat me over the head. I even remember one time where I just found this little ring with like a plastic bug on it, and wore that because I thought it was cool. And one of the teacher's assistants actually questioned whether I was supposed to be a boy or not because of a single ring. This is how utterly ridiculous the whole culture of gender norms has become. And I have seen this exact same rhetoric play out. I have seen the same rhetoric play out for gay folks, for lesbians, for bisexual people, and now people, because that Overton window has shifted a bit, and we just cannot debate anymore that, they are just regular people wanting the same rights as us. It's shifted towards trans and non-binary friends, and constantly pushing back with hate and disinformation campaigns. And now we see the institutional result of this. We see the BBC uncritically propagating these lies and this hate campaign, and we have to stand here and say, no more. This is rubbish, this is misinformation, this is dangerous.
I grew up in Manchester, South Manchester, and all through primary school I had other kids coming up to me, parents of other kids saying, so is it a boy or a girl? When I was a baby, my mum used to dress me in the cutest little baby clothes, like the sweetest little dresses, and also so I was cute. And people would say to her, is it a boy or a girl? She was like, really? all through my life I've had that. I went to a same-sex grammar school, secondary school. Survived 6 years at that place. It wasn't a good school. When I started in year 7, I was bullied for being a lesbian, and I didn't know what a lesbian was. So they saw me, saw that I was different, and decided that they were going to attack me for it. The school of 1,200 girls, and they were surprised that some of them might be gay or trans. Turned out there was actually 2 trans men in my form, in my year, in my school. So that's a form of 30 from a year of 180 in a school of 1,200, and there was 2 of us. So we weren't that uncommon. Ever since I left school, I was fighting to come out and transition. I was always told to wait until I was 18, because that was what was best, you know, make sure you're old enough to be able to give full informed consent and all of that. I genuinely wish I hadn't waited, because after 6 years of waiting, I finally started testosterone in man. One of the best pieces of advice I ever gave to a friend of mine was to get on the waiting list, because they're not going to just treat you if you're not ready. They're not going to turn around and just pump you full of hormones if you're not ready. If it's not what's right for you, it's a rigorous process. I think a lot of people saying that it's brainwashing kids or whatever don't understand how much we have to fight to get onto hormones, to get surgery. And he had top surgery 2 weeks ago. He's been on testosterone for 2 years. He's younger than me. And he got through the system quicker. He got to where he needs to be. And he's a lot happier for it now. I guess really all I want to say is that you're not alone. Like I say, in a school of all girls, basically there was 2 of us in one floor who were trans. There's always people around you who will support you. I've worked in pubs all my life, and you'd be surprised the amount of people who just don't understand and want to understand. And when they understand, they're fine with you because you're fine with them, and you're people, everyone's people. We should treat each other like people.
Okay, so I cannot say my name because of reasons. But I am a non-binary journalist from Salford. And the thing is, being non-binary for me was weird. Don't get me wrong, but because I am from Argentina, I'm not from the UK. And trans people didn't, quote unquote, exist in Argentina. Lesbians didn't exist in Argentina. Gay people didn't exist in Argentina. Just, quote unquote, normal people exist in Argentina. So if you were anything other than the norm, you were immediately shunned and avoided. And I lived like that for my entire life, thinking that I was what they wanted me to represent myself as. I always thought that I was just, quote unquote, normal for them. But then I came to the UK and I surrounded myself with such an amazing crowd, like you guys, like you're all just amazing in being here and representing your voices and representing yourselves. That's so great. And I never seen this ever before when I lived in Argentina. So coming here and seeing all of this brings me such joy. But at the same time, what makes me angry and what makes me want to be a journalist is what the BBC is going through. Avoiding the real voices of trans people, spreading hate, spreading the voices of those who just want us gone. I hate that. I hate that with all my soul. And I hope that in the future, when I become a journalist, this thing just changes. I'm gonna force it to change. Okay? This is not gonna happen. And if it happens, it's not even gonna be that prominent. It's not gonna be by the mainstream journalism anymore. The mainstream journalism is gonna change. We are gonna change it. And that's the way to do it. So yeah.
Okay, so I just want to make a point that we need to be really clear about what it is that we need, what it is that we want to achieve. Because we talk a lot about trans rights, but as we've already talked about today, we have a lot of rights in this country as trans people. But every single day, for each of us, those rights get trampled over. We have a right to healthcare, to timely healthcare, but yet we have waiting lists that are basically indeterminate. We need more than just rights, we need liberation. We need to change the social attitudes that are so pervasive in our society. We need to make sure that will not take away our right to exist, our ability to survive, our ability to create our communities, which have so much love in them, so much passion in them, and we need to make sure that we don't go backwards, we keep going forwards.
probably about 14 to 15, and he had a school bag, and walked up quite timidly and was like, "Oh, thank you for holding that sign. It's really nice to see that." And this was quite young, to be honest. Probably similar age to when I was out to myself, to be honest. And that's quite interesting to see that I think they just wanted some representation. They just wanted to be able to see, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, people in public do support me because there's that much hostility towards trans people at the moment. And when I was in school, it was something like, this was about 7 years ago, and there were definitely trans people, there were people transitioning there, but it wasn't really a thing that people were open about. It was just something nobody really said, and it was more like you could make a comment like, "Oh, nice haircut," but nobody really wanted to say, "Oh, yeah, you're trans, nice," because there was that fear and of that hostility. And like Section 28, despite being repealed, it was still looming. And if like the gender critical movement get what they want, which is that back, that same stigma will be here, and it will hurt those children, like that child that I met on a tram stop, who just wanted to see people like them.
Hello, I'm back again. Remind my pronoun they and transphobia, because I doubted myself for a brief second, I didn't go. I could be on the path to be who I want to be everywhere right now. If it weren't for that transphobia just stuck in the back of my head, just saying, "Are you sure that's who you are though?" Even though I've known it since I was 9. I've known it for over 10 years, but no, just one comment that you say in the back of your head all those years and make you doubt who you are as a person entirely. And that's why we need representation, that's why we need to be vocal, that's why we need to be on the news, that's why we need to shout on our voices, so that people know that they shouldn't doubt who they are for even a second. Because it could mean that they're not here tomorrow. And everybody deserves to be here tomorrow.
Hi. So I just wanted to say something very briefly, because as a gay man, I'm acutely aware of what I owe to trans people. Trans people fought for my rights, and I think it's about time that gay men stepped up and did the same thing for trans people. And on that note, I'm sure you're aware earlier this year there were 2 pride marches that were organised by the community, and there was one particular gay man who decided to speak at that event. And I just wanted to reaffirm for everybody here that he does not represent the views of gay people. The LGBT Alliance are using him as a martyr, and he's completely been used in that situation. His views are not, and the reaction of the crowd showed, I think, and I want everybody to, be aware that that is what the community feels, that there is no LGBT without the T, and we're all here to support you as well. So please don't let somebody like that think that the rest of the community is not in support of trans people, because we are, and we're going to start coming out a lot more because we owe it to trans people.
Just what you said there about the support that the trans community has from the LGBT community. I went to my first London Pride in 2019, and I was on the Mermaids bus because I'm a patron of mermaids. Proud patron, who are having a wonderful weekend away this weekend. I hope the weather stays good for them. And what I saw from top of that bus was a sea event, was incredibly honouring and fabulous, and it actually showed me in stark relief that the people who are getting all this publicity are this tiny minority of malcontents. And we have to bear this in mind. And I say this to any trans person who's here or will see this online or whatever like that. You are supported. You are loved. You are the future. And you mustn't let these people convince you that you are not.
Hi everyone. My pronouns are they, them. I like that everyone's doing that. Thank you. As you can see by my sign, I was wondering, what do I say today? What's my... can you speak up? Okay. How about now? Okay. Just right here. Okay. So, I'm a bit nervous not speaking in front of you all, but I just wanted to say why this specific article enraged me is using trans people as a scapegoat. I skim right it. I was like, oh, I'm going to skim right it, and then I say what I want to say. It's using trans people as a scapegoat. The conversation should be around consent. The conversation should be around, unfortunately, across all genders, across all identities, there is the conversation needs to be around consent, and this is a survey of 80 people. That's bad journalism, as my friend said. And how can we be okay with that? How can you be a journalist and be like, yeah, I'm going to put this out into the world because I've got facts, but it's like this is a one-sided pool of people that you've surveyed, whereas there are surveys, there are surveys that exist out there. There is a survey of LB women, over 2,000 respondents were there, and that conversation is around consent, and it's like, stop using trans people to perpetuate harm towards us and to perpetuate this idea that it is that trans people are basically, I hate bad journalism and I hate it when numbers are used wrong, and I also want to just do a bit of a shout out of solidarity with Italy at the moment, the LGBT family in Italy, the disabled family in Italy, because this right-wing nonsense is unfortunately not just here. You need to keep coming out, and thank you for being here. I feel a lot of emotions seeing you all speak, and thank you for everything that everyone's saying. I'm going to leave it there, because I don't know how much sense that made, but yeah, thanks.
I just wanted to say, in addition on the consent thing, there's actually a wider issue, and we wrote a little bit about this on some of the flyers we've handed out. There's an issue where, in terms of sexual violence in general, there has been a cutting back over the last decade under the Tories of sexual violence resources, and it's been especially focused on sexual violence resources which are specialist services. There are gaps around how LGBT survivors in particular get treated, and the fact that a sex offender was used as a source to talk about how bad trans people are is not really a coincidence. There's a bit of a thing with LGBT Alliance and with other groups where they're doing this scapegoating of one community. What they're doing is they are deflecting away the idea that we do have abusers in our communities. No one really seems to care about this, and it happens in the trans community, in the lesbian community, in the gay community, amongst bi people. And there aren't resources to help survivors. One of the things that happened 2 years ago when, I think this was in response to the 2018 sexual violence survey, I think it was done by Gallup, possibly. One of the LGBT Alliance's responses to that was to look at an instance where a lesbian had talked about having been raped by her partner, they then turned that around and said, well, rape isn't rape in the UK unless there's a penis involved. So clearly that was a trans woman who perpetrated that. And it's a complete distraction. They said that on Twitter publicly whilst they were going through these horrendous crimes. And the thing is, we do need resources, we do need people to start taking sexual violence seriously. There are a lot of people who've experienced this, and there aren't any resources because the resources that are available are targeted mostly at heterosexual people. That's the facts of it. They're not targeted at looking after trans survivors, they're not targeted at looking at lesbian, gay or bi survivors. I just wanted to have a quick word about the function that scapegoating has in actually covering up the real abuse that does happen in our communities, because it's important that we speak up. Anyway, sorry. I don't know if anyone else wants to follow that.
Hello again. I just wanted to follow up this conversation about representation and why it matters, and why it matters to break these stereotypes. The sexual abuse and this kind of violence is always used as a scapegoat to demonize those who are other. It was the same for gay people back in the mid-2000s, now it's the same for trans people. And this is commonly seen whenever there is an attempt at trans representation in all ages media. I am a writer. I am very passionate about including trans and non-binary characters in my stories because we need to see that this is something normal. This is not something that is being used as a vehicle to attack and abuse children. We are not, as some sources may claim, quote-unquote, pumping them full of hormones. What we are doing is we are telling them that whatever your gender, whatever you want to explore as your gender, you should have the options to do it. If that means putting puberty on a pause button, then by all means, if you decide it's not for you, you don't want any surgeries or hormones or whatever, that is also fine. This myth of irreversible damage is just another wolf in sheep's clothing, so to speak, about the same old stereotypes to spread lies about us. And I think it's time that we get the facts out of there and make sure that these facts are being represented in all forms of media, both fiction and non-fiction.
Hi everyone. I'm Peter, I'm non-binary, they, them, all that. I'm a radio presenter. It's for a community, non-profit, volunteer, all that sort of thing. And we have to abide by Ofcom rules and all that sort of thing. So it feels weird, wrong, that the BBC get away with so much stuff. Not that I want to, obviously, but I can't get away with a lot of this stuff. I couldn't bring myself to do so much stuff that the BBC get away with. And so I have guests on my show that are trans, I have gay, bi, everyone, lesbian, everyone. And it's fine, and the community around it is great, and so my personal experience, I suppose, I tried going through GIC. For a while, it was very much I want to become a woman, I want to become a trans woman. And eventually I realized that I was non-binary, somewhere in the middle. And then when I told them that, they were like, okay, well, we can't give you anything. And I was like, what do you mean you can't give me anything? It's either one way or the other. I'm like, well, what do I do? And they're like, oh, we can give you some, laser hair removal stuff or whatever. And I'm like, great, thanks. This isn't just the BBC. This is everywhere. This is in GIC. This is in Ofcom. This is something that we do still need to fight. And it frustrates me that we have to fight this. And I really appreciate everybody here who's here and
I'm a medicinal chemistry student, so basically I study drugs. And I just wanted to go over a couple of things just about the medication, because I've seen lots of people say that things like puberty blockers are untested, we don't know the long-term effects. There are lots and lots of medications that are not used based on particular conditions. So I'm on something that is actually an anti-epileptic. I'm not epileptic, I have chronic pain. Those two things are related. So, basically, we know the long-term effects of things like puberty blockers because they have been prescribed for a long time in cis children who start puberty early. We know those side effects. We know the side effects of things like hormone replacement therapy because they're prescribed to cis people who may not have the appropriate level of hormones. These drugs aren't dangerous. We know what they are. I'd also like to just briefly mention something about the NHS as somebody who is disabled and has some experience. The NHS has an obligation to let you see a specialist within 18 weeks of referral. It took me a year to see a rheumatologist, and if that had been a waiting list for a GIC, that would have been exceedingly quick. The NHS currently, for their referrals to gender care, it's completely inadequate. It is not an appropriate level of treatment, and they absolutely have an obligation to do better. The fact that people think that it is easy to go on hormones, or easy to see a GIC, that children are being pumped full of hormones, is ridiculous. As somebody who studies medications, that makes me very angry.
Thank you for saying that. Yours is a voice that's very rarely heard as well, especially talking about the medication that trans people need. Now, don't forget, we're talking now years before consultation, and that's just to start on a medication. That doesn't mean anything that involves any serious counselling or surgery, because GPs have now decided they're so scared of being sued. They have been served letters by people like the LGBT Alliance, by the way, LGB Alliance, I almost said T here, that GPs, who traditionally were kind of a little bit of a help for gender identity clinics, have pretty much stopped prescribing because they say, well, what if we can't monitor them properly? Well, you can't, you refer them to an endocrinologist. And that's the bottom line, is that the system is no longer joined up for trans care. And that's a systemic problem which has been wrought by underfunding, primarily, by misinformation, and unfortunately the pandemic, because trans people have been pushed way down the list when it comes to things like this. Unfortunately, there's no sign of it improving. But what you're saying there about the drugs, I agree completely. The puberty blocker situation is a joke. How long is untested? 10 years? 20 years? 30 years? 50 years? 100 years? Will we ever be happy at the amount of time that people have been safely taking medication under consultation and monitoring by medical professionals? I was on hormones in the 80s. Lots of us were. The healthcare from gender identity clinics on the NHS was better in the 80s than it is now. And that can't be right.
Hi, my name's Evie, she, her, and I didn't plan on talking, but I'm being brave today. So, I'm a media producer and do like radio and podcasting, and I recently found myself unemployed and searching for work. And recently, found a team assistant role with BBC Sounds. Now I have applied,
and it's heartbreaking that I feel conflicted about it, because BBC used to be the best. You know, I grew up with like Doctor Who and I loved it, it's great. Like, it's such a fantastic place to be creating groundbreaking content and TV shows, and radio and podcasts. And the problem is not that I am trans, the problem is that the BBC is transphobic. And all I want to say to them is that just do better, do your due diligence, listen to trans voices, and stop platforming those that are so clearly against us, who just don't understand us. And yeah, trans rights are human rights. Thank you. Have we got anyone else on the edge of speaking up? Faces out there. It's like if you've been waving and I haven't seen you, I'm gonna wave harder. Sorry.
misinformation campaign. The reason that it's becoming so common is they want us to feel ashamed of who we are, to not come out and be proud and happy who we are, because they're scared of what is really coming with everyone. You know, everyone here. I look around and everyone is just absolutely. It's wonderful seeing so many people just out and proud to be who they are, and despite all of the media talking us down and saying no, that we're a danger to society, I don't see that here. All I see are people happy to be who they are, and people who just want to peacefully exist with everyone else in society. And I just really want to thank everyone for being here today, because I only came out something like 6 months ago, I think. And I didn't only do that because of this kind of movement. When I was at school, I only saw, I think I saw a grand total of 3 people in my entire school who were out as gay. I saw every one of those was continually bullied and subjugated for being proud to be who they were, and for that reason, I didn't feel safe. I was out as bi, but I wasn't at all. I didn't feel safe saying I was trans for so long, and it wasn't until I found a community where I felt I was at home, where I saw people, trans people, proud and happy to be who they were. It really makes a difference. I want everyone to make sure that they know that just being is somewhere, being visible is going to make somebody else more likely to accept themselves and to be proud about who they are.
Okay. I just want to offer a quick message of hope, because even though it seems like this systemic cascade of hatred is never ending, we need to look at this in perspective. Think about how much society has progressed in the past 100 years alone. After the Second World War, we had black civil rights movement, we had gay rights movement, and now we have far more information and support than ever for trans rights. I am lucky because I have had very accepting, open-minded parents who have allowed me in my adult life to explore my gender, find who I am and who I want to be and how I want to express myself. That I have been born into privilege, and I want to use that privilege for those who do not. I want to stand with everyone else to tell those who may not be so lucky, who are facing oppression, and hatred, that you are not alone, you'll never be alone, and we will win one way or another.
Point out the rainbow. Point out the rainbow. Point out the rainbow. Oh, nice! Got a rainbow.
Yeah, do you want to talk? Go for it.
Here, take that.
Hello everyone. I'm a barrister and a member of my profession, quite famously I suppose, recently became very prominent because of her transphobic views and her support for the transphobic agenda. I would like to say, and the t-shirt from my profession and our related profession solicitors says it as well, there is intended to be equality before the law, and we are not yet there. And while we have people in a position of power, people who advocate professionally, taking that sort of populist, nonsensical and violent view and bringing it to the media, who are lapping it up in the way that article represents, we will not have equality before the law. Know this though, I've heard, I don't know how many times now, trans people have told me that they've given up effectively on the law. They've given up asking lawyers for help. There are lawyers out there who will help, but you need to find them. I was told by a member of my profession a couple of months ago that we were talking about the fact that my thing was a law clinic for community, and they said, well, the problem is, whenever we get a trans person come to see us about a legal problem that they're having, they make very difficult clients. I said, what on earth do you mean? Oh, well, they're very angry. And I said, well, what do you expect? Trans people I've met aren't angry. Well, they are angry. They're frustrated and they're tired. And if you are in a position where those people need help, then you can take away some of that frustration. So this institution is a good institution. Thank you. All of these companies that have in some way lent their amplification to transphobes, the people who are doing it within those organisations are a small minority, but it's a powerful voice. The BBC owes you a duty, it owes me a duty, and the only way that they will be